a big boost for the Modi government's reform drive. International ratings agency Moody's raises India's investment grade to Baa2. The first such upgrade over the past 13 years, also upgrades the look to stable from positive, says big-ticket reforms like the note ban, the formalization of the economy, the PSU bank recap and GST will put the economy on the fast track in the long run.
The ratings upgrade comes as a big breather for the Modi government, which has been facing the flack over note ban and GST rollout. Finance Minister Jaitley says naysayers have now been proved wrong, even as he says the upgrade was long overdue. Minister of State for Aviation Jayant Sinha tells ET now that Moody's move will facilitate foreign inflows.
It's time to cheer on the Lal Street as the ratings upgrade lifts the sentiment. The Sensex jumps more than 400 points in intraday trade before giving up some of its gains towards the close. The rupee makes smart gains to race ahead of other Asian currencies, even as the bond market joins the celebration.
Market veterans raise a toast. Big Bull Rakesh Jhunjhunwala tells ET now that Moody's ratings upgrade will inject a fresh bout of liquidity into the Indian market. D Street's top gun Madhu Kela says the higher rating is a reflection of global agencies' faith in the government's reform resolve.
It's a big thumbs up from Indian industry for the much-awaited ratings upgrade. Top corporate honchos say the move is an endorsement of India's growth story. HDFC chair Deepak Parekh believes the upgrade will go a long way in improving investor outlook on India, while ICICI Bank's chief Chanda Kochhar tells ET now that the upgrade is the result of big-ticket structural reforms.
Good evening, this is ET Now. You're with the India development debate on a big day. I'm Sandeep Gurumurthy joining you live from our news center in Delhi, and joining me is my colleague and co-anchor Supriya Srinath with a big story we're tracking tonight.
Now, this is the biggest endorsement for the Modi government's reform push till date. International ratings agency Moody's today lifted India's investment grade to Baa2 with a stable outlook. It's the first such upgrade by Moody's in the past 13 years for India and comes as a big morale booster for the Modi government, which is under attack for the adverse impact of the note ban and the GST rollout disruption. Moody's, however, does say that these big-ticket reforms will propel the economy to the high-growth trajectory, with GDP growth estimated to touch 6.8% in the current fiscal and will propel to 7.5% the year after.
And it's celebration time for the government and investors. Finance Minister Jaitley says the naysayers have now been proved wrong, adding that the upgrade is in fact a belated recognition. The market too joined the party, with the Sensex soaring as much as 400 points in intraday trade, even as bonds and the rupee rallied. India Inc. gave a thumbs up, saying the mega structural reforms have now started paying off. It's a big sentiment booster, no doubt, but will it lead to more dollar inflows on a more sustained basis? More importantly, will it help kickstart the investment cycle back home? The Moody's upgrade and what it means to the Indian economy. That's our topic for discussion tonight on the India development debate.
It's a huge day as far as the Indian economy is concerned, and we've got none other than Finance Minister Arun Jaitley joining us. And sir, many congratulations come your way. A ratings upgrade after 14 long years. We are being upgraded at a time when our peers are being downgraded. So you do deserve the accolades that are coming your way today. Of course, you know, much has happened and many people believe this is very deserving. But what do you believe has been the immediate trigger for this upgrade? And also, how substantially do you think this is going to change the situation on the ground in terms of capital flows and the cost of credit?
I think the upgrade, it's already belated, because if you look at the management of the Indian economy, in the last few years, our fiscal prudence has been at the very best. Our macroeconomic parameters have been consistently maintained. And what is most important is that the reform process in India, which had come to a standstill under the UPA, we have consistently moved in one direction. So from May 2014 till today, every decision that we have taken is directional in one particular direction. and it adds strength to the future capacity as far as the Indian economy is concerned. Whether it is opening out the economy for more foreign direct investment and by virtue of it getting more investment into the country, whether it is easing your system so that to do business in India becomes easier. Consistently, we've been taking all steps in the direction. It's no mean achievement that you've moved some 42 positions in 3 years, something which has never happened in history. And we are consistently following that direction. What was the position of corruption pre-2014 and what is the position today? It's for any naked eye really to analyze and assess. Discretions have been eliminated, files are moving on their own. And then when it comes to major decisions which had been struck up, I remember when we took over the government, the principal question being asked was, are you raising the insurance FDI limits or not? Now, today that looks like a very small decision compared to what we've done. So you have the GST which has been made operational, and now, in fact, ahead of time, the rationalization of rates is taking place. You have the Aadhaar platform which targets subsidies in terms of dissipation of social benefits. You have the IBC code which is being fully implemented, and we are expecting some early harvest on that score, a legacy problem of NPAs. You have a major decision with regard to the recapitalization of the banks itself. Demonetization itself has been a major step towards digitization of the Indian economy in a world where the whole world is looking at fintech as the economic parameter of the future. Now, on each one of these yardsticks, the government of India has been consistently acting in that direction. And while doing so, even in adverse global circumstances, we managed to retain India as one of the fast growing economies in the world. And I'm sure we'll continue to do that. And therefore, I think it was to be expected that sooner than later, some form of upgrades and recognition of all these reforms and steps being taken would come from global agencies.
Mr. Jaitley, an immediate fallout of this is that capital flows are likely to increase and the cost of debt is likely to come down for corporate India. Do you believe that's enough to move the needle on private investment? Because while the government has been investing heavily in the economy and public investment has gone up radically over the last 3 years, private investment is yet to kickstart. Do you think this is a suitable trigger for private investment to kickstart in the economy and for corporate India to start investing?
I think this is an important trigger, and this is coupled by at least 3 other factors. One, that public investment and foreign direct investment will continue to increase. The cost of capital will of course come down. The second, there is a great emphasis on infrastructure creation, so there is a great scope for capital investment to take place in those areas. And obviously, with the global economy now also turning, and coupled with the fact that the ability of the banks to lend and support growth itself will increase. Today, banks had the CASA deposits with them, they had the money with them, but they had capital inadequacy, so their ability to lend itself was restricted. Today, once you have the recapitalization of the banks, the capacity of the banks to lend itself will increase.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you've got a big thumbs up from Moody's there as far as the bank recapitalization is concerned, amongst a whole host of other reforms. But sir, if I may ask you, one of the things that Moody's has given a whole rationale of why you were upgraded and what are the other reasons that you could be upgraded in future for, barring 2 reasons that they cite for a downgrade. One of them is the health of public sector banks in the future, and the other is fiscal consolidation, the health of fisc. Does this add more pressure? Does this pose a bigger challenge to stay the course of fiscal consolidation, even at a time when public sector investment is perhaps the only engine that's roaring in growth?
Well, I think as far as the present government is concerned, we've already displayed our determination and intention in the last 3 years. Consistently from 4.6% or so, we've been bringing the fiscal deficit down. We are at 3.5. We are trying to target 3.2 and then eventually target 3. So the glide path which had been indicated is being broadly maintained. I don't think even the worst critic of the government suspects our ability and intention in maintaining that glide path. You will always have challenges. You will have challenges of revenue. You will have challenges of non-tax revenue. But then one of the essentials of the management of the economy is that you manage all these contradictions and at the end of the day maintain a fiscal deficit. And please remember, in the last 3 years, I have maintained the fiscal deficit figure not following the UPA philosophy of cutting down expenditure. In each of my last 2 budgets, the revised estimates have been higher than the budget estimates. We've spent more because the economy needed more of public spending and yet maintained the fiscal deficit figure, and we will endeavor to continue to do that.
Mr. Jaitley, this report also lays out a scenario where India could be up for another upgrade. And, even at this rating, we're nowhere close to our potential because we're at par with countries like Spain and Portugal, whose, debt profile and growth outlook is far weaker than a country like India. And they specifically pointed to land and labor reforms. Given the political capital that the Prime Minister enjoys, as is evident now with the Pew survey that came out just yesterday, will the government now put that on 2 specific areas of land and labor reforms? On land, we did see the government move. I know it's a state issue and you need to work closely with the state governments, but is there an area that the government will now focus on, sir?
Well, let me tell you, I think both the issues are overstated as far as India is concerned. As far as land is concerned, every state government is telling us that they have land in abundance as far as industrial projects are concerned. It's only for some running continuous infrastructure projects that they may require some land. And with the kind of rates now which are being offered for land acquisition, I think a lot of farmers are willingly at those rates willing to give up their land. Therefore, getting land at the market prices or at the prices which is prescribed by law is not very difficult. In any case, we have a very clear understanding with the state governments that if any state government does need land and it wants to reform its law, the central government will assent to it and cooperate with them in giving assent to the state amendments as far as the land acquisition is concerned. So far in the last 3 years, none of the state governments has faced a serious problem as far as that issue is concerned. And therefore, I think that issue itself is overstated. Even on labor, now, haven't we reformed sector after sector? We've reformed in the banking sector, we have reformed in the airline sector, we've reformed in the airport sector. We are now trying to bring in investment into the railway infrastructure. And I think successfully the nature of Indian trade union movement is now such that we've been able to carry most of the unions with us. I don't see too many sectors in India where reforms are really held up. Look at the port sector. You have so much of private investment coming in, private ports coming up in India. Even as far as the public ports are concerned, you are letting out facilities to private players to operate. So I don't think, even though we have been partly amending some of the labor laws, but I think these 2 issues are being overstated as challenges as far as the Indian economy is concerned. There's a way of getting around them and carrying the labor along with us and dealing with the land problem without really being able to sacrifice any form of reforms.
Before we let you go, one final question, sir. Have you finally blunted the opposition's narrative? Have you finally shut up your critics, the naysayers, at least the former finance ministers, both from within and outside of your party?
Well, I think there have been 2 kinds of critics. There have been the ill-informed critics who didn't know the subject, and therefore they could come out with statements of the kind that we've seen in the last few days. Of course, those statements are certainly not the kinds which will change the course of Indian history. But I think what is more unfortunate is that there have been critics who are informed critics. Now, the informed critics are those who had an opportunity in the past and didn't act. And therefore, having failed to act in the past and having pushed the Indian economy into a phase of policy paralysis, I think now they find it extremely easy to comment on what the others are doing. I think the test really lies in justifying as to what did you do when you were in a position of authority and you had an opportunity to change the course of history.
Indeed, and it's taken 13 years for this upgrade to come true. Do you expect the others to now just follow suit, sir? S&P, Fitch, is it just a matter of time before they join the party?
Well, I think it's up to the rating agencies. I really can't comment on what they will do, but I think I can only comment on the ratings that we have already, and that I think is a positive development for India.
Indeed, that's a big validation of what you've done in the last few months, sir. Thank you very, very much for joining us right here on ET Now on a day when India gets its first upgrade in the last 14 years. In conversation with us right here, perhaps the man who spearheaded it all, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley.
Thank you, Mr. Jaitley.